Hey everyone, in this video I will be breaking down Fables Volume 9. In Volume 8, a very important thing that happened was Bigby infiltrated the Homelands, he went to Geppetto's cabin, had a talk with him, and then Bigby burned down Geppetto's magical grove of wooden trees, which he uses to carve the wooden soldiers. So now in this volume we will see what happened because of that, and we will see Geppetto's next moves. Alright, let's dive into it now. Fables Volume 9. Fables Volume 9, Sons of Empire, written by Bill Willingham, art by Mark Buckingham, Steve Leialoha, Michael Allred, and Andrew Pepoy. Fables Issue 52, Sons of Empire Part 1, Some Ideas Toward the Prospect of a Final Solution for Fabletown. Last volume, Bigby infiltrated the Homelands and talked face-to-face with Geppetto. Bigby was sending him a message to not mess with Fabletown, and then Bigby burned down Geppetto's cabin and grove of magical wooden trees. It was hopefully meant to be a message for Geppetto and his armies to leave Fabletown alone for good, and hopefully establish peace between both of their groups. Although long-term, what the actual outcome will be is to be determined. Now in this volume we will explore the fallout of this attack on Geppetto's magical grove. The burning of Geppetto's cabin and grove of trees was not significant to those that did not know the true nature of the Emperor and the importance of Geppetto. For example, Imperial bureaucrat Minister Muddlecock in the capital, whom was a character we first met in Volume 6. When he got the report of Geppetto's cabin burning down, he thought of it hardly a disaster, but the senior ministers and administrators and those that did know Geppetto's importance were of course deeply disturbed by this attack. A war council was called. Minister Muddlecock was sent to be the secretary for the meeting of the war council. He was told he would be leaving town for a few days to attend this meeting. Also called to the meeting were some of Geppetto's closest advisors, the Snow Queen being one of them. There's also Hansel from the classic grim fairy tale story Hansel and Gretel. You know the story, the one with the gingerbread house and Frau Totenkinder as the witch. There was also the Gnome King. He is a gnome character from the Oz books. Now, the Wicked Witch of the West is the most notable and famous Oz villain due to her appearance in the 1939 movie The Wizard of Oz, but it is actually the Gnome King who is the most frequent antagonist through this Oz book series, so he is a serious villain. And beyond them, more allies were summoned as well. We will meet them when the actual meeting takes place later this issue. For now, we jump back to Fabletown. In Fabletown, Red Riding Hood is talking to Joel Crow, one of the Crow brothers. Joel Crow has a job cutting Rapunzel's hair in Fabletown. She requires multiple haircuts a day. Red Riding Hood asks Joel if he will cut her hair. She wants a new look, something more modern. Joel says he's not really a barber, he's more of a butcher of hair. He tells Red Riding Hood she should really go out into the Mundy if she wants a real haircut that will look nice. Red Riding Hood is nervous about doing that though. She's actually never been outside of Fabletown since she got here. Later that day, Joel agreed to go with Red Riding Hood into the Mundy in New York City and accompany her for a haircut. They go to a very chic salon. Afterwards, Red Riding Hood is very pleased with her new look. It is modern and elegant. When she gets back to Fabletown, she thanks Joel for accompanying her. And then Red Riding Hood, she goes and talks to Flycatcher. She shows off her new look. The whole reason Red Riding Hood wanted this haircut is that she wanted to impress Flycatcher because she has a crush on him. When Red Riding Hood says hello to Flycatcher, she asks him if he likes the new her. Now Flycatcher, he does in fact like the new look for Red Riding Hood. He is very attracted to her, but the problem is Flycatcher has never got over his missing wife in the Homelands, and he feels like he would be cheating on his wife if he gave in and started dating Red Riding Hood. So Flycatcher, he ends up replying, "Oh dear, oh no," and he runs away from Red Riding Hood, and as he's walking away, he mumbles, "I can't, I'm no cheater, I'm no, oh no, oh no." The shock of this reaction of Flycatcher's causes him to then transform back into a frog. Back to the Homelands now. All of Geppetto's dignitaries that were called for the war council arrive in a tent city established for them. Inside the camp, a chef is giving all of his workers a pep talk. The chef tells his workers, ladies and gentlemen, gather around please, I have a few announcements to make. We are privileged to be allowed to serve some very important imperial dignitaries today and in the days to come. They will be conducting an important meeting and will be expecting food and beverage service each time they choose to take a break. And we won't know when they'll decide to take these breaks, so not only must everything be prepared perfectly, it must also be ready at all times. 2 other things to watch out for. First, don't ever offer food to any of the wooden soldiers. Apparently they interpret such courtesies as grave insults. Second, some of you may have noticed a little old wood carver, he's referring to Geppetto, shuffling and puttering around here. I've been informed that he's not among the serving staff or peasant workers, so please quit giving him orders to fetch this or haul that. Apparently he's been summoned here to testify in front of this council. And so, for the duration of the meeting, he's to be treated with every grace and deference, just as if he were one of the actual dignitaries. So once again, we see an example here of people in the Empire like this chef, not knowing of Geppetto's true importance, that Geppetto is actually the power behind the scenes. Finally, the meeting begins to take place at a round table. The Snow Queen is the official host of this meeting. She says she is here and will lead the meeting on behalf of the Emperor. Now, she is referring to the fake public face of the Emperor when she says this, but in actuality she is leading this meeting on behalf of Geppetto, who is secretly the power in charge. She introduces everyone at this round table that will be taking part in the meeting. She says, "Here we have Geppetto, the father of the fabled wooden men and maidens. As such, he has often been a close advisor to our emperor. Next to him is his first son, Pinocchio, who has lived in Fabletown and can enlighten this body with many details of those sordid criminal refugees. Then we have the Gnome King, ruler of conquered Oz, along with various surrounding kingdoms and imperial districts. And here is what remains of the Honorable Knight Bright Day, representing the world of the Roos in absence of our dearly missed sister sorceress, Baba Yaga. This Bright Day Knight is the one that Boy Blue decapitated back in Volume 6, although he's still alive as just ahead." The Snow Queen continues, "And next is the noble Hansel, the Inquisitor General of the entire Imperium, who was also once a member of Fabletown. And this is Sir Rodney Greenwood, our closest eyes on Fabletown today, returned only recently to attend this conclave. I understand you've recently become a father, Rodney." Now, Rodney is the wooden soldier turned human that we met back in Volume 7. Rodney answers, "I have a lovely daughter, healthy and growing like a weed." The Snow Queen continues, "And finally, we have Senior Underminister of Imperial Security, Muddlecock, who will keep the official minutes of this August assembly." Muddlecock, not really sure what to say, replies, "I'm happy to serve." The Snow Queen tells all of them, "You all know the reasons for this meeting. We will determine the fate of Rebel Fabletown in light of their recent aggressions that resulted in the destruction of our greatest military resource. I think there can only be one decision. We should pull back on all operations in the Arabian Fablelands, consolidate our forces, and prepare for a complete invasion of Fabletown." I will lead the invasion personally, gathering all of the strength of my frozen realms, and bring a state of permanent winter. What do you say? Now we have the backup story, Hair. A backup story is usually a secondary, often shorter story in the back of an issue, and this volume has 4 of these stories, and they're all about 3 or 4 pages long. In the backup story Hair, we see Rapunzel. She is a fable known for her story where she is locked up in a high tower, and her hair is so long and strong that a handsome prince climbs up her hair, up into the tower to save her. In the book Fables, her hair grows so fast that she needs to get it cut 3 times a day. The Crow brother, Joel Crow, his sole job in Fabletown is to cut her hair for a living, and he sells it to the Mundy wigmakers. Rapunzel, she is rich from all of her haircuts and hair that gets sold, but she can't fully enjoy it because she is not allowed to go out into the Mundy for more than 2 or 3 hours at a time. She can't stay in one place for more than 45 minutes, or someone might notice her hair growing. On this day, Rapunzel gets her hair cut, and then she takes a cab into the Mundy part of the city. She's trying to do a little shopping and eating. It's tough though. She can't just leisurely dine in a Mundy restaurant. Her shopping trips are confined to no more than 20 minutes per store, and no visiting the same store within 3 weeks. She can go to the movies because it's dark, but she better not talk to anyone. After a few hours of travel this day and trying to go to a few places, and after her hair grows another few inches since her haircut from earlier, she returns back to Fabletown with long hair again for yet another haircut. Fables issue 53, Sons of the Empire Part 2, The 4 Plagues. In the Homelands, the Snow Queen is giving her presentation of how she would destroy the Mundy world. Not just Fabletown, but all of the Mundy world, and how they could take it over. The Snow Queen explains they would conquer the Mundy world through a series of 4 plagues. The first plague would be pestilence. They would gather all of their warlocks from across the Homelands, train them, and send them into the Mundy world. They would send them to 2,000 of the Mundy's most populous cities, where they would lie low for years, and then, on a select day, simultaneously those warlocks would release various deadly plagues, diseases, tons of them. After a few months of letting these diseases do their work, they would begin the next stage, the Plague of Fire. They would release tons of their dragons as well as their fire imps, and they would burn several Mundy cities down to the ground. And then it would be the Plague of Winter. The Snow Queen says she will lead this phase. She will bring endless winter so the survivors of the diseases and the fire can't recover or rebuild. For 3 years, no planes will fly, no roads will permit travel, no crops will grow, and every modern power generation system will freeze and die. Those who survived the pestilence in the burning cities by fleeing into the countryside will find nothing there to sustain them, which leads into the 4th and final plague of the war, the Plague of Famine. They won't need to do anything, we'll just have to sit back and watch the Mundys expire. Then we can just march in and occupy their world in total. We've so often spoken of designating one world for exclusive use as a prison and punishment world. Why not the Mundy world, since it will be too ravaged by then to be usable as much else? Well, that concludes my presentation. Geppetto, he likes this plan. He thanks the Snow Queen for her presentation. He says it was very detailed, comprehensive, and a very intriguing proposal. He suggests they all break for lunch and discuss afterwards. Back in Fabletown, Grimble, Buffkin, Prince Charming, Beauty and Beast all look after Flycatcher in his frog form, and they wonder what they should do. Buffkin asks, can he have him? Prince Charming tells him no. Up on the farm, the rabbit Peter Cottontail is being chased by some wolves, and finds himself on Bigby's property of Wolf Valley. Bigby chases the other wolves off until it is just him and Peter Cottontail. Bigby talks with the rabbit and asks him a favor. Bigby says, "My cubs are growing fast and they need to practice their hunting and such. How would you like a job doing pretty much what you were doing just now?" Peter Cottontail asks, "Letting a pack of wolves chase and kill me?" Bigby responds, "Chasing, yes. Killing, no. The cubs will get points every time they corner you, but I won't ever let them lay as much as a claw or fang on you. Interested?" Back to the Homelands. It is still their lunch break before the War Council meeting resumes. The wooden soldier turned human, Rodney Greenwood, finds Pinocchio. He asks Pinocchio if the two of them can speak in private. Rodney, who has now been living in the Mundy for a bit among the humans and seems to maybe somewhat enjoy it, is a little uneasy with what the Snow Queen is suggesting, and he feels Pinocchio might be an ally in this line of thinking based on some of the reactions he saw of Pinocchio's during the presentation. Rodney asks Pinocchio, "Let me guess, you're as horrified by the Snow Queen's proposal as I am?" At another table during this lunch, we see the exact opposite reaction. The Gnome King, who is stuffing his face with food, comments to Geppetto, "I have to confess I'm as delighted by the Snow Queen's proposal as you are. Of course, we need to improve on it here and there. She can't be allowed to do this without my direct involvement. I'm in command of numerous diverse evil spirits that can be of help in every stage of the war." The Snow Queen and Geppetto discuss everyone's reaction to her proposal. She says that the Gnome King and the Knight Bright Day seem to like the plan very much, but she says Rodney and Pinocchio really hate it. Geppetto says that Pinocchio and Rodney are their current best experts on the Mundy world, so when they do respond to the plan, they'll be more likely to point out its flaws, thereby letting us improve on our plans before we implement them. The Snow Queen says that this is smart. Rodney, he's talking to Pinocchio still, and he tells Pinocchio that he should give their dissenting presentation to the council. It will mean more coming from him, the first wooden son. Pinocchio is nervous to do so. He wants to find some beer to loosen himself up first. Geppetto, he breaks away and talks with Hansel. Hansel was excluded from the Snow Queen's presentation earlier. Hansel wonders why he was excluded. Geppetto explains the reason to him. He says it was because he didn't want Hansel to know what is being planned here today, so that he can never reveal their plans to anyone else, even under harsh questioning. Geppetto has a very important mission for Hansel, he says. "I'm going to send you to the Mundy world and to Fabletown as our official envoy. Their murderous wolf, Bigby, invited us to do as much during his recent incursion here. While there, you will conduct yourself in all propriety and attempt to negotiate a lasting peace treaty with the rebels. You won't succeed, of course, but your real mission is to find a way to spirit Baba Yaga and my wooden sons safely out of Fabletown and bring them home. You'll have 3 years at most to accomplish it. Don't fail me, Hansel." Hansel, he accepts the mission. Now, the backup story for issue 53, Porcupine Pie. In the Homelands, not far away from the big conference going on, a talking porcupine named Mr. Porcupine tells a real-life handmaiden that if she kisses him, he will turn into a handsome prince. So the girl in the field kisses the porcupine. She then screams in pain as the porcupine accidentally shoots his spines into her. He can't control it. She runs off angry, saying, "And you never turned into a prince! You're just a horrible old beast!" Once the woman leaves, the talking porcupine tells his friends, Chicken Ripple and the gingerbread man, "I told you I could convince a human girl to kiss me, so pay up, Chicken Ripple." The chicken replies, "Okay, you won. You get the last slice of stolen pie." The chicken further comments, "How gullible are these humans to think old witches just go around enchanting everyone into frogs and porcupines and other diverse creatures?" The porcupine, with his face filled with pie, comments, Oh, I angered a witch all right, and she really did put an evil enchantment on me. That part's all true, but I was always a porcupine. The spell just gave me a perverse attraction to human women. She seemed to think that was enough to get me killed pretty quick, but she didn't count on how persuasive I could be. You know, it was actually a frog I met once that taught me the scam. Of course, he never admitted it was a scam, but I knew better. Fables, Issue 54, Sons of the Empire, Part 3, The Burning Times. Hansel arrives in Fabletown to be the new ambassador for Geppetto in Fabletown. Beast introduces Charming to Hansel. He says, Prince Charming, mayor of Fabletown, meet the notorious serial killer and Fabletown traitor Hansel, who apparently is the new ambassador from the Adversary. Hansel to this says, do not use that insulting term. You may refer to him as the Emperor. Prince Charming and the others do not like Hansel, but they did offer Geppetto the opportunity to send an ambassador, and it will be good to have some way to communicate with Geppetto for diplomatic reasons. Perhaps it will even help them avoid war. Hansel makes his introductions, shows his credentials from Geppetto. Hansel then prepares to leave. Prince Charming wants to talk further, but Hansel says he's going to secure offices and residences for his staff, and perhaps in a few days they'll talk. Hansel then leaves, and once he is gone, Prince Charming asks, what was that you said about him, serial killer, traitor? Prince Charming was one of the last fables to leave the Homelands and come to Fabletown on the last boat out, as seen in the storyline The Last Castle. Because of this, Charming is not aware of Hansel and his history in Fabletown and all that happened before he arrived in Fabletown himself. Beast explains, Hansel used to be one of us until his activities among the Mundi made further association untenable. Beauty adds, he was actually the first member of Fabletown ever to get tossed out, his protections under the general amnesty quashed. Prince Charming says that, well, they'll have to fill him in more on this all later. For now, he wants Hansel followed, and he wants all of his people followed too. And he wants to know where they're going to set up their residences. Also, how the hell is it the Empire's agents seem to be able to come and go at their bloody goddamn leisure? Where's their secret gateway to the Homelands? Beast says he doesn't have the money and resources to do the kind of spying Charming is asking for. He only has 3 or so people working as spies under him. Charming tells Beast, well, you know what? The floodgates are open, he will get more money, and Beast now has the authorization to hire more spies. Now he orders Beast to get Fabletown bodies attached to every one of these Empire scum today. If they're spotted, it's fine for now. Eventually we'll replace them with people who know not to get spotted. Later on, 3 blocks away, Hansel and his assistants are moving into their rented townhouse. Their superintendent, kind of landlord in a way, is Kevin Thorne. Kevin explains to Hansel, the real owner hired me to manage the building for him, in return for getting to live here rent-free. Kevin Thorne is a character that first appeared in Volume 4, March of the Wooden Soldiers. He was a Mundi reporter that for some reason did not forget about the weird things happening in Fabletown with the battle with the wooden soldiers, whereas all the other Mundis seemed to be affected by the witch's spells and they kind of forgot about everything. But something about Kevin makes him special and he doesn't forget. Anyway, Kevin greets Hansel and his associates and tells them, my name is Kevin Thorne, I'll be living in the loft above you 3, but don't worry about any noise, I keep quiet as a mouse. Back in Fabletown, Beauty invited Frau Totenkinder to help her brief Prince Charming on the history of Hansel. Totenkinder was the witch in Hansel's story, so she knows him well. So what is the story of Hansel? Long ago in the Homelands, when Hansel and his sister Gretel were children, they were abandoned by their parents to die in the woods, but then they discovered Totenkinder's gingerbread house. Totenkinder explains she dressed her home up in gingerbread and other tasty sweets to lure any children in. Hansel and Gretel entered her home, and she fattened them up with candies. She was planning on killing them, of course. Prince Charming interrupts the story and asks, "So you were just going to murder them?" Totenkinder explains it away, saying, "No, dear prince. Their own parents planned to murder them. I simply contrived to make use of their deaths in service to my own needs." Beauty adds, "I remind you, Prince Charming, that these were all pre-amnesty deeds. Legally, they're all washed away now as if it never happened." Prince Charming says, Fine, I get it, whatever. Please continue." Totenkinder continues the story. For reasons she doesn't want to get into, the kids got the better of her and shoved her into her own oven and burned her. And she died, burned completely down to ashes. It took her so long to come back from that. But as she was burning in the oven, Gretel told Hansel that they should probably leave, but Hansel, a little sadistically, wanted to stay and watch and make sure that she burned completely. Once Hansel and Gretel left the gingerbread house, they were deciding where they were going to go next. They weren't going to return back to their parents that abandoned them to die, so they wandered. And eventually the Adversary's armies began their expansions into the territory around them. So Hansel and Gretel fled for the Mundy world with some others. This was the early days of the Fables in the Mundy. Hansel and Gretel, they eventually sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and settled in New Amsterdam, which eventually became New York. Once they arrived in New Amsterdam, Snow White met them, as she was sort of a big part of Fabletown in those days. She escorted them to Fabletown and was showing them around and telling them how everything works. Once in Fabletown, though, Hansel and Gretel were reintroduced to Frau Totenkinder, who was alive. When Snow White introduced them to Totenkinder, she butted in and said, "Oh, we've already met, these children and I." Hansel, surprised, said, "But you're dead." Totenkinder responded, "Once, but no longer, as you can see. It's been a long millennia since death has had any lasting power over me." So Totenkinder died and burned to ashes, was somehow able to return from that. Hansel, seeing her in front of him, was outraged. He demanded that she be put to death. He said, "This creature is a foul witch. We must destroy her immediately." Snow White explained to him, "No one is killing anybody. Totenkinder is protected by the General Amnesty Agreement, the very same document you signed this morning." While Hansel, he refused to stay in Fabletown if they would have this witch here, so he left. Gretel, though, she stayed behind in Fabletown. So Hansel, leaving Fabletown, he went back to Europe, and he toured Europe, and he spent the next 5 decades hunting and burning down witches with the Mundys. He became a famed witch hunter, taking part in all the hysteria that was all the rage back then, and suspecting people as witches and killing them. And once the witch hunting craze began in Salem, in America, Hansel returned to America in the 1690s to continue his tradition of witch hunting. Of course, most of the people Hansel killed and accused of being witches were probably not witches at all, just innocents. Hansel was such a prolific witch hunter, leading various witch hunts, that he'd often make the newspapers. Snow White, she didn't like this at all back then. She said that Hansel's activities risked undue attention on Fabletown. But Ichabod Crane, who was the deputy mayor back then, said that Hansel remained within the letter of the law. He's never made a connection to them. Snow White argued, but it seems since he can't kill real witches here, he's making up for it by finding hundreds of fictional ones out in the mundanes. Ichabod Crane, though, stuck by his initial judgment. Eventually, one day, Hansel returned to Fabletown. He talked with his sister Gretel. He tried to talk her into leaving here, but Gretel, she kind of liked Fabletown. She was kind of okay with Totenkinder now too. She tells her brother, maybe it was a mistake to kill Totenkinder all those years ago. She has so much power, she conquered death itself. We could build a paradise on Earth with such powers as she possesses." Hansel, upset hearing this, argued back, "You dare speak such affronts to the Lord?" Gretel replied, "You don't understand. Her workings have nothing to do with our Lord one way or another. They aren't diabolical, they're neutral. Just another set of tools." Hansel can't believe what he is hearing from his sister. He tells her to shut up. Gretel says that she's also been studying magic with Totenkinder. She wants to show Hansel what she has learned. This really sets Hansel off. He comments, "Oh dear God, Satan, unable to attack me directly, strikes at me through my own sister, making of you his creature?" Hansel, he striked and killed his sister Gretel. He told the other fables it was an accident. Ichabod Crane was against investigating it further, so Hansel got away with it. But still, Hansel was stricken from the protections of the Fabletown Compact and banned from Fabletown forever. Eventually, over the years after that, the witch executions slowed down and eventually stopped, and Hansel dropped out of sight. He fled back to the Homelands, where he helped the Adversary hunt down unauthorized practitioners of sorcery there. But now, Hansel is an ambassador. His diplomatic status would negate his ban. This is probably also why partly Geppetto chose Hansel, because he knew it would piss off the residents of Fabletown. Well, Prince Charming says Geppetto would love it if we flipped out and did something stupid to Hansel, so instead we're gonna kill this asswipe with kindness. But he is to have no more visits to the business office. Let's set up one of the Woodland VIP suites for all further sessions. And he's also never to enter Fabletown without an escort. Now we have the backup story for issue 54, A Thorn in Their Side. Kevin Thorne, the Monday reporter, he's going for a walk with his dog. Kevin is unemployed. No one wanted to hire a news hound who believes in fairies and witches. So Kevin, he secretly continues his investigations into Fabletown and writes about them in his journal. As he casually walks his dog through that part of town every so often, he picks up bits and pieces of information of what everyone is talking about in Fabletown. He's heard of something called the farm, although he thinks the farm is a code for where people go to when they get murdered. He overheard a conversation about how Snow White gave birth to monsters and had to go to the farm, and Bigby Wolf disappeared lately. I overheard that he's also now at the farm. Boy Blue got into some trouble lately, breaking some sort of fable laws, and they sent him up to the farm too. Kevin heard the rumors of the reporter Tommy Sharp that was found murdered in Central Park years ago. Tommy Sharp might have been sent to the farm too. Kevin is determined to continue his investigations, but he will be careful. He writes in his journal, "I'm just a guy who occasionally takes a shortcut down Bullfinch Street on the way to taking his dog to the park, and once in a while he stops in their candy store. He never gives anyone in this part of town an excuse to send him to the farm." Issue 55, Sons of the Empire, Part 4, Over There. We go back to the conference now. Pinocchio has to give a presentation and poke holes into the Snow Queen's invasion plans for the Mundy world. Pinocchio, he makes a compelling argument against invading the Mundy world. He lays out what he thinks would happen if Geppetto and the Adversary's forces actually invaded the Mundy. Pinocchio begins by saying, "Fabletown owns the clouds. That's how Bigby came here, and that's where the Mundys will come from when they destroy us. If you start your assault with a plague of diseases in the Mundy world, well, the Mundys have something called the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control. They will know instantly what's really occurring, and they will know that all of these diseases you are plaguing them with aren't natural outbreaks, and they will know it is a worldwide attack. And Fabletown will know this immediately as well, who is doing it. And Fabletown won't just sit around waiting to die. They will come out of the closet. They will explain the situation to world leaders, and they will show the Mundies how to fight back. We see images of how this would go down. Bigby would go to the US Army generals and show them his wolf form, and then they will show the army the magic beanstalk, and the US Army will get their tanks, artillery, fighter jets, bombers, everything all up into the clouds. They'd also get their entire armies of men, any of which could take out a full horde of our own guys with their advanced weapons. And they'll be able to do all that before our first plague attack has had a chance to percolate for more than a few weeks. Millions of theirs will have died, sure, but they've got billions, and those billions will be mad. The armies of the world will invade the Homelands, dropping in from the clouds from anywhere they want. And we don't have anything that can stand up to them. You've kept advanced technology out of your empire because you fear a revolt. You've kept combat-viable sorcery rare and concentrated in the upper bureaucracy for the same reason. Our type of empire only survives as long as an elite few have all the power. Problem is, such structures are extra vulnerable to an outside force. In short, then, if they invade us, our empire crumbles. The Snow Queen, she asks, how can you be so sure that they'll have the will to do what they have the power to do? Pinocchio answers, are you kidding me? Biological agents are considered weapons of mass destruction. They'll go to war, all right. In fact, as soon as they realize there are hundreds of worlds here to conquer, primitive and ripe for conquest, they'll be turning away volunteers at every recruiting station. And the armies of every country in the world will want to get in on the action, so they can have some claim to some conquered world as their own. They'll carve up the corpse of our former empire like a Christmas turkey. Hell, your attack will probably unite all the nations of the Mundi world for the first time in history. In a year, but probably less, the Mundis will have conquered everything, at least everything not outright destroyed. The Snow Queen, she asks, you paint a bleak picture, Pinocchio, but I wonder if it isn't colored by your obvious affection for the Mundis. Pinocchio says, hey, I'm not lying. My dad zapped me with his loyalty juice after all. Rodney, he backs up some of Pinocchio's claims. Geppetto, the Gnome King, and the Snow Queen, they have come to believe Pinocchio and his assessment. They don't like it, but Pinocchio seems right. If Geppetto and his forces outright invaded the Mundi, it could be very bad for them. Well, shit. It doesn't seem like they will be able to solidify plans today, so they call their meeting to an end. At the end of the meeting, Minister Muddlecock is in his tent, finishing up his minutes for the War Council meeting. He has been sent here to transcribe everything, but now that his work is done, he is murdered by a wooden soldier as Muddlecock knows too much of the true nature of things. Geppetto and the Snow Queen talk. They say it is a shame that the Snow Queen's initial plans wouldn't work, but all that means is they will now just have to revise their plans. Geppetto says, well, it's clear Fabletown and the rebel Fables will have to die first without raising alarm, as well as any Fables scattered throughout their world, and then we can fully attack the Mundi. The Snow Queen says, I'll consider that in my new plans, grandfather. Geppetto adds, and contact Hansel. He'll need to find a way to free the hostages sooner than we planned in order to keep our schedule. It's important that all my lost sons come home before we act. The Snow Queen replies, once the rebel Fables cease to exist, no one can lead the Mundi armies to our worlds. They'll have to stay home and die with the others. Geppetto, he ends by saying, solve these new problems, and the war can still begin in 3 years' time. Now we have the backup story from issue 55, The Road to Paradise. The 3 blind mice are up on the farm, and they want to get to Small Town as they believe once they are there will be many mouse maidens waiting for them. The one mouse says to his brothers, in Small Town, when each mouse arrives, they are immediately awarded with 16 lovely virgin fillies, each more mousy than the last. Problem is, though, that these 3 mice are blind, and they do not really know how to make their way to Small Town. As they are exploring, they somehow make their way into Boy Blue's trumpet, and they get stuck in there. Now the mice, they think this is the entrance to Small Town and paradise, but of course it is not. Boy Blue, when he has his trumpet, he's trying to play it, and he notices that something seems stuck in it, so he blows it with all of his might, and the 3 mice go flying out of it, and they land a few meters away. The mice are still nowhere near Small Town, but they thought this was the entrance to Small Town, so when they land, they ask, "What happened?" Another one answers, "I think we've been magically transported to the land of wonders. This can only be the fabled Small Town. Quick, find the woman!" And with the 3 mice not really making any progress in getting to Small Town, we end this backup story. Fables, issue 56, Jiminy Christmas. Chapter 1, December 22nd, 1956. In 1956, at the North Pole, Jack Horner was trying to sneak into Santa's workshop. Jack, he managed to get inside, and then he picked a filing cabinet lock. But Santa caught Jack red-handed trying to steal something. Santa asked Jack, "What are you doing here?" And Jack explained he was after the naughty and nice lists, the greatest compendiums of juvenile crime in human history, and each won his ticket to wealth beyond measure. Jack was sent back to Fabletown for punishment under Bigby by Santa. Bigby asked Jack, "How did you expect those lists to make you rich, Jack?" Jack answered, "Use your imagination, Sheriff. Those bad kids all tend to grow up into bad adults, and who might like to know their identities? The IRS for one, police agencies, the feds. The possibilities are endless. And they'd all pay to get the goods, and since the lists are international, I could sell and resell them to every government in the world." Chapter 2, Wolf Manor. In the current day now at Wolf Manor, Snow White and Bigby are with their wolf cubs, and they are all decorating the Christmas tree. Afterwards, they send off their kids to bed. Bigby asks Snow White, what does she want for Christmas? She says that she wants them as a family to go visit Bigby's dad, the North Wind. Bigby, he is not into that idea. Him and his dad do not get along and have a bad history with one another. But after the years the North Wind spent helping Snow raise the wolf cubs and training them, Snow White says she wants him to be a part of their lives. She reasons, "I know how you and he don't get along, and it might surprise you to discover that I already know most of why, but Mr. North is our children's grandfather and they adore him. It's not right that they should have to choose sides between the two of you." Bigby says that he'll think on it. Chapter 3, The Rug. Rose Red and Boy Blue are on the farm, and they are getting ready to visit Snow White and Bigby. Rose Red has a magic flying carpet, courtesy of the Arabian Fables. They gave it to them so that they will have an easier way for traveling up and down the magic beanstalk. They can just get on the carpet and it will levitate them up there. For today, though, Rose Red and Boy Blue are going to use the magic carpet to fly to Snow and Bigby's along with all the presents. Rose Red and Boy Blue, they sit on the carpet, and they are trying to figure out, how do they fly it? They start yelling at the carpet, saying, "Rise up, magic carpet, rise up! Giddy up, mush, fly, take off, abracadabra, activate!" Eventually, they figure out that they need to lift up one corner of the carpet and bend it a certain way, and the carpet will lift into the air. When they do this, though, they maybe do it a little bit too much, and it brings them up so high so fast. But eventually, they kind of get the hang of it, and they realize that if they pull the carpet a certain way, it'll fly straight. So finally, they manage to fly all the way to Snow and Bigby's. Later that evening, Snow and Bigby and Boy Blue are drinking. Boy Blue says, "Oh, coffee's fine for me. The last time I drank anything alcoholic, I concocted the brilliant plan of invading the Homelands single-handedly." Bigby replies, "Hey, that didn't turn out so bad though, did it?" Boy Blue responds, "Well, as the only other member of the Fabletown chapter of the very exclusive Invade the Homelands on Your Own club, I'll simply say thank you." While they are all talking, Rose Red is in the other room with all the wolf cubs, and she is telling them all about Santa. She says, Santa is a fable like them. Little Ambrose asks, "And he lives at the North Pole, right?" Rose Red answers, "Exactly. He's stationed there to keep the adversary's goblins and ogres and boogeyman from coming south to get us." The kids say that they want to stay up tonight and meet Santa. But Rose Red, she tells them, "Oh, you can, but do you know the secret?" She says, "If you do stay up Christmas Eve and catch Santa while he's in your house, he has to answer one question, anything you ask." Ambrose asks, "Really? Anything?" Rose Red answers, "Absolutely, but there's a cost. If you ask him a question, that's your only gift, and you don't get any other presents from him for the whole year." Chapter 4. The Question. The wolf cubs, all in their beds on Christmas Eve, discuss. They say, "Only one of us will stay up and see Santa and ask him a question, and the rest of us have to promise to share our presents with anyone who didn't get any." So the kids, they all draw straws, and Ambrose gets the short one. He's gonna forgo his present this year so that he can ask Santa a question. Darian tells Ambrose, "Now remember, Ambrose, the question we need answered is, how do we make sure each of us gets the very best present in the whole world next year?" So all the kids go to bed except Ambrose. He stays up, he sneaks downstairs, he's waiting for Santa, and eventually Santa does arrive. Santa comes down the chimney. Ambrose replies, "Jiminy Christmas, you're real." Santa responds, "Oh, little Ambrose, what are you doing up so late?" Ambrose asks, surprised, "You know my name?" Santa responds, "Of course! I know every child's name. You're on my list under the nice heading, you'll be glad to hear." Ambrose says that he has a question for Santa. Santa tells him, "Of course! You do know the price though, don't you? You won't get a present this year." Ambrose says, I know, but I really want to ask you this question. I want to know, how do you do it?" Santa asks, "Do what?" Ambrose adds, all this in one night. Mommy says you go to every house in the world, which is millions and billions, and that's like even more than 1,000. So how do you get to all of them one after another before the night is gone?" Santa, explaining some of his magic, says, "Well, I don't go one after another. I just make one single trip on Christmas Eve. Just one, that's all. This is a magical night, and I'm a very magical fable. I only make one trip tonight, but it's a trip that goes to every house on my list, and it all happens at once. Let me try to explain, young man. I'm here right now talking to you, and when I'm done with that, I'll finish leaving presents here, and I'll then go home. But at the same time, I'm also at your Auntie Rose's house, leaving gifts for her and Mr. Blue. And I'm also next door giving Mustard Pot Pete a nice selection of jellies and a new set of pens for Stinky the Badger. And I'm also standing in the snow outside of Reynard's den, leaving him a fresh hot Christmas pie. And I'm in a Hollywood mansion, leaving a lump of coal in that rascal Jack Horner's stocking." Chapter 5. The Answer. Santa, he continues, he says, "And I'm also in Fabletown visiting Flycatcher." Now Santa is going to do something very important this Christmas Eve when he visits Flycatcher. Flycatcher is currently stuck in his frog form. Santa tells Flycatcher, "Well, we both know you're not doing well right now, don't we? No more croaking, young man, I know you can talk." Flycatcher, as a frog, can now talk. Flycatcher, he says, I remember." Flycatcher, he did not remember the fate of his wife before. He thought that she was roaming the homelands, but now he remembers that she died. Santa says, "Yes, I thought you might recover your memories when you changed into a frog again. That's a tough break, especially since I can't let you forget ever again." That's part of a very difficult set of a special gift I have to give you this year, and this next part's going to hurt even more. Santa, he brings a ghost version of Flycatcher's dead wife back. He brings her back just for one kiss. Santa explains, "She's come here from the beyond, the farthest fields that we know, brought here at some cost." Flycatcher's wife kisses him, and then she disappears. And Flycatcher turns human again after the kiss. Flycatcher, now human, asks Santa, What? What did you do? Why would you do this to me?" Santa replied, "I hope you'll be able to see that someday this is for the best, no matter how much it hurts now, but I had to do it because you're the one, the only one. A great war is coming, and when it does, many full worlds will die, perhaps including this one, unless you alone have the strength and will to do the hard and terrible things that need to be done. You can save them all, or most, or some, maybe." Santa, he then leaves. His parting words to Flycatcher are, "I don't know any more than that, but you'll know what to do when the time comes, provided you're willing to put away childish things and take up a man's burden again. Goodbye, Ambrose. I wish this could have been a better holiday for you." Back over to Wolf Valley. Santa tells this other little Ambrose, continuing his explanations, "And at the same time, I'm in Europe and China and darkest Africa and every Mundy house in the whole wide world, or everyone that still believes anyway." Santa asks Ambrose, "Do you understand now?" Little Ambrose replies, I think I don't, but maybe I do." Ambrose, he gets really tired and he heads off to bed and says bye to Santa. Before Santa leaves, Bigby comes out and talks with him, saying, "Evening, old man." Santa responds, "Oh, Bigby, I'm surprised you didn't prevent your boy from sneaking in here." Bigby answers, "Why, Cub's gotta do things and have adventures so he doesn't grow up to be a timid wolf." Santa, he responds, "Well, it's getting late and I need to go. It's a long ride home before the sun rises." Bigby, before Santa can leave, says, "Aren't you forgetting something, Chris?" Santa remembers, "Oh yes, this year's list. Here you go, you'll keep it safe." Bigby responds, "Along with all the others. They're tucked away where no one will ever get close to stealing them again." So I guess ever since Jack Horner tried to steal the Naughty and Nice lists way back in 1956, Bigby has been keeping them safe for Santa. Santa, as he's leaving, says, "Kiss the missus for me." Bigby replies, "And drive safe, old man." And with that, we end the Christmas issue of Fables. Fables issue 57, Father and Son, Part 1. A man's home is his castle. Bigby, Snow White, and the kids are flying over to see Bigby's dad, the North Wind, in the Homelands. He lives in a section of the Homelands that is left alone by the Adversary. Snow and Bigby are on a magic carpet, and the kids are flying. When they arrive at the North Wind's snowy castle, Mistral, one of the North Wind's servants, is there to greet them. The wolf cubs ask Mistral if they have different TV shows here than they have at home. Do you guys have Ranger Mike Danger and Playtime Caboose? Brakeman Bob shows way better cartoons than Mr. Mary's Treehouse. Mistral isn't sure what to say. They don't have cartoons here. Snow and Bigby explains that there's no TV here in the castle. The kids are a little bit upset when they hear this, saying, "No fair! You tricked us! You said we'd have fun here!" The kids are then shown to their rooms. It is cold in the castle. Snow White warms up by the fire. She is the only one who requires a heated room, as Bigby and the kids can be comfortable in the cold. Mistral, he talks to the North Wind and says that the children want television. The North Wind says, "Well, if the children won't be happy without television, then we'll just have to find some way to provide it for them. Otherwise, what kind of host would I be?" Mistral suggests, perhaps we could focus the scrying pool on a television machine in the Mundy world. The North Wind tells Mistral, "Excellent, do that then." Later on, the kids are watching TV through the scrying pool that is showing a TV in the Mundy world, but they are forced to watch whatever the Mundy in the world is watching. And the Mundy is watching a show called Inappropriately Touched by an Angel. The kids are not a fan. Bigby, he comes by and tells the kids, "If you think you're gonna waste a whole day watching TV, you have another thing coming. Come here. If you've got the time to goof off in front of the idiot box, you've got time to continue your lessons." Bigby takes the kids and tells them, "You see that forest way down there, the foot of the mountain? There's gotta be something living in there you can hunt, so get to it and be back in an hour or two, and remember, pack discipline." Before the wolf cubs go and hunt, Bigby takes Darien aside. Darien is somewhat the leader of the pack. Bigby tells him to take care of the others. He says, "It's your job to train them as much as it is mine. Today, I want the 6 of you to make your first kill. It's a rite of passage you cubs need to do on your own without me looking over your shoulder. Make sure everyone gets a taste of the kill afterwards, even the girls. No excuses for squeamishness." As the wolf cubs go to hunt, Bigby finally goes and talks with his father, something he has been avoiding doing for a long time. Bigby calls his dad Mr. North, refusing to call him father or dad. They discuss about how, apparently, Bigby tried and failed to kill his dad 7 times in the past. Bigby says he won't fail the next time, though. The North Wind asks, "Is this all because I left your mother? That was inevitable, and she knew it, too. The winds always change. It's our nature." Bigby is still angry with his dad. He says, "You left her to die, don't forget. Or have you edited that little detail out of your memory in order to think better of yourself?" While they talk, the wolf cubs are chasing a boar in their wolf forms. But little Ambrose, he gets separated from the group. He gets lost, and he wanders into a cave alone. Bigby and the North Wind continue talking. Bigby, despite all the issues with his dad, says, "Well, you are the grandfather to my cubs, and they do seem to like you. And Snow believes that they should continue to have ongoing relationships with you, and I won't stand in their way." The North Wind is happy to hear that, as he is very fond of the cubs and would like to continue seeing them. Bigby also tells his dad, "You spoke to others in Fabletown of having no allegiances or conflict with the Adversary, neither for us or for them, but that was before you gained relatives steadfastly on Fabletown's side. And Fabletown wants to know if your natural interests can now be made official. They want you to finally get down off the fence and choose sides." The North Wind asks, "And is that what you want?" Bigby replies, "I warned them that you would let them down sooner or later. What was it you said? A wind is unreliable by its very nature? And you're the windiest of all the winds, right?" The North Wind says that, you know what? He will join Fabletown on their side, not only to preserve the safety of his grandchildren, but also to prove Bigby wrong. Bigby says, "Okay." Well, if the North Wind is on their side, Bigby has something he wants the North Wind to do for them. He wants the North Wind to round up a few of those invisible wind creatures, zephyrs, he believes they were called, and bend them to the North Wind's will so that Bigby and Fabletown can use them. Bigby says that Fabletown is newly full of the Empire spies dressed up in envoys' clothing. We want them followed night and day, no matter where they go or what they do. The North Wind says he will oblige by Bigby's wishes here. Elsewhere in the Homelands, another father and son group, Pinocchio, is talking with his father, Geppetto. Geppetto, he never knew his birthday, and because he never knew when it was, he never celebrated it. But Pinocchio says the Emperor, the fake Emperor, he has a birthday, Geppetto should have one too. Pinocchio says they should just pick a day, and Pinocchio has picked this day for Geppetto's birthday. As long as we remember it and faithfully celebrate it every year, this day will work. Pinocchio, he has a gift for his dad on this picked birthday. This actually seems like a very sweet gesture on the part of Pinocchio. When Geppetto opens his gift, he sees a wooden bug carved in wood. Pinocchio carved it for his dad. Pinocchio knows he's not a great carver like his dad is, but it's the thought that counts. Geppetto initially seems to like the gift, but then the wooden bug jumps and moves. Geppetto asks, "How is this moving?" Pinocchio explains, "I carved it from the magic grove wood, from the biggest intact piece I could find among all the burnt and blasted leftovers. Cool, huh?" Geppetto, he grows angry and he slaps his son in the face and he yells, "How dare you! Only I carve from the sacred wood! Get out! Get out of my sight, you foul thing!" Leaving that touching Hallmark moment, we jump back over to the North Wind's castle. Bigby, Snow White, and the North Wind are going to have dinner soon. They are just waiting for the wolf cubs to return back. Bigby explains, "I sent them down to the forest below to hunt. They'll be along as soon as they notice it's getting dark." The North Wind, though, he freaks out a little bit when he hears this. He says, Why would you do such a thing without consulting me first? The woods are infested with all manner of dire monster." Bigby replies, "What?" Bigby, he begins rushing to save his children, and we see down below in the caves, Ambrose got separated from the others, and he is face to face with 6 monsters, and they are threatening to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Fables issue 58, Father and Son Part 2, Big Scary Monsters. Bigby is rushing to save his kids, and the monsters down below are trying to eat Ambrose. Ambrose, he squirms and tries to get away. Finally, Bigby arrives and attacks the monsters, saving his son. As Bigby fights, he tells Ambrose to run and hide and find his siblings and return to the castle. In the castle above, Snow White and the North Wind are talking. Snow White asks the North Wind why isn't he going down there to help find the kids and save them. The North Wind explains, "Snow, there are considerations you aren't aware of. I'm not entirely free to act in this case." Snow White is angry that the North Wind isn't stepping up to help. These are her children's lives at stake. Bigby and the monsters tussle down below. They are tearing through trees. Finally, though, when the fight is over, the cubs, all 6 of them, head back to see their father. Bigby, he won the battle against the monsters. He is wounded, but Bigby says he will be fine. And at Bigby's feet are the 6 monsters he was fighting. They are now in wolf form themselves, the monsters. Bigby reveals to his children that these wolves are actually their uncles. They are Bigby's brothers. Back at the castle, the North Wind explains to Bigby and Snow White that Bigby's brothers have been living in the woods below his castle for some time. They are trying on new monstrous shapes every decade or so in an attempt to find one that would impress him. They are idiots. The North Wind says, "I should never have taught them the shapeshift." The North Wind explains, though, this is why he couldn't interfere with the battle. A father cannot choose between his children. Bigby and Snow White are upset. They tell him that any half-decent father would support the good children over the bad ones. Bigby says that he will deal with his brothers now and punish them. The North Wind argues, "It's not your place to do so, son. It's mine, by right of fatherhood." Bigby replies to his dad, "You squandered any sire's rights ages ago, and I earned my right of judgment over them by honorable combat. You wouldn't understand it, Mr. North, because it's a matter among wolves." Bigby tells Snow White to leave and check in on the kids. Bigby also tells his wolf brothers, whom he bested in combat, to crawl down to the kennels until he decides what to do with them. For now, he wants to speak to his father in private. Speaking to his father, Bigby tells his dad that he expects his dad to keep his word about allying with Fabletown and supporting them. And he also tells his dad that he expects him to clear out all the dangers of that land before they come here and visit him again. The Northwind is surprised that Bigby is willing to return here with his family. Bigby tells his dad that the cubs have no idea their grandfather is a coward, and he says, if they can't have a real grandfather, at least they can have the illusion of one. Bigby then returns to his shape-shifting wolf brothers. He is going to punish them for their actions. He forces them to take the shape of goldfish, and then Bigby's wolf cubs will each get one of the 6 goldfish, and the goldfish are to stay in a small, tiny fishbowl which will be at Wolf Manor. When Ambrose sees the fish, he asks his dad, their bowl is so small, can we get a real fish tank? Bigby replies, nope, this one is just fine. Because this is a punishment, Bigby doesn't want his brothers to be living it up in a nice huge tank, so they will just be stuck in this small one. Fables issue 59, Burning Questions. This is a very weird issue to summarize. So essentially, Bill Willingham took many readers' questions he got over the series so far, questions about various characters and plot points and what happened in the past, and he answered them in quick 1 to 2 page stories in this issue. So I will just quickly run through these questions. Question 1. Did Hakim ever manage to get a regular job? Hakim was the assassin/bodyguard for Sinbad, who was then made a free Fable and decided to stay in Fabletown. Beauty was trying to find him a job, and Hakim was talking about how he's very skilled at killing people with poisons and strangling them, but we never found out what job he ended up getting. Well, Beauty set Hakim up with a job in a local bookstore, the one that she used to work at before becoming the deputy mayor. Hakim was not good at working at the bookstore, though. We see a humorous interaction he had with a customer. A female customer came into the bookstore, and Hakim told her, "Here is book for you to buy. $23.15, please." The woman customer replied, yes, but I came in to buy a book, but not that one. I'd like to select my own, thank you very much." Hakim to this said, "What? You are a Grand Sultan to demand preferences? You would insult the noble merchant who owns this shop? Has your husband not taught you how to conduct yourself as a proper demure woman? You pay for this book now, before I call out the villagers to have you stoned." When that job didn't work out, Hakim got a job at the Glass Slipper shoe store. 2 very similar poor customer service results. Eventually, Beauty set Hakim up with a job at Miss Webb's store delivering groceries. She asked him, "Do you think you can deliver groceries without killing any customers?" The story of Hakim's life and work in Fabletown will be continued one day in the future. Question 2. How did Buffkin keep getting his hands on liquor? Essentially, Buffkin would steal all the booze in the business office, and he would do this by reading books on lockpicking, which would allow him to pick the locks on the liquor cabinet. When Prince Charming found out, he got really angry with Buffkin over all the stolen booze. Prince Charming told him never to do it again. He told him, "Listen here, you scurrilous, flea-bitten thief. I'm the bloody mayor of Fabletown, the mayor, which means I'm your sovereign lord and master. Steal my booze again and I'll have you flogged, or worse." Buffkin then, instead of reading about lockpicking, started reading books on the art of political assassination. Question 3. What is it like for a new member of the Mouse Police? The Mouse Police are the little tiny people that are the cops in Small Town. We see a small town drill sergeant threatening new recruits with all of these impossible tasks they will need to do. They will need to be able to run 2 miles in 2 hours, swim a 5-mile length of the farm against current, kill a Mundy rat barehanded and eat its heart, and immediately following lunch, they'll have to prove their strength by defeating one Gulliver-sized opponent in single combat. All of the new small-town recruits are scared shitless. This is impossible stuff. 2 mice police watching this training talk about it with one another. The one asks, "Does the drill sergeant always tease the new recruits like this?" The other mouse replies, "He's not precisely teasing, it's part of his training routine. First recruit to faint gets dropped from the class. Question 4. Did Jack leave anyone messages before he left Fabletown forever? So before Jack left for Hollywood, who did he phone? We see Jack, he phoned Rose Red and he told her, "I just wanted to say that you were the one. You were the girl that I wanted to spend eternity with. No, I'm not asking you to come back to me. I just wanted to get it on the record before I left. Yeah, you take care of yourself too, Rose." But then, Jack phoned 2 or 3 more girls and told them the exact same thing. Question 5. How are the new 3 little pigs adjusting to being pigs? We see the 3 pigs up at the farm who used to be giants. Despite them being pigs now, they still kind of talk and act like giants, saying things like, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, we smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, we'll grind his bones to make our bread." When Rose Red and Boy Blue tell the pigs that they can't play with them right now, the pigs reply, "One side, tiny woman, or we'll stomp you flat with our massive feet. But don't stray too far, you're next. Try running from us and we'll catch you in a single 10-mile stride." Rose Red tells the pigs that they are truly weird pigs. Question 6. Besides Fly, who else has asked questions of the magic mirror? We see back in the day, Prince Charming asked the mirror, when his election was happening, "Mirror, mirror sitting there, will I win my bid for mayor?" And the mirror responded, "The signs aren't certain, and do take note, you haven't done zip to earn my vote." Buffkin, he asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror, my best good friend to me, where have they hidden the liquor cabinet key?" The mirror answered Buffkin, "Ask me tomorrow, I'm feeling drowsy, and I must say your rhymes were lousy." Jack Horner asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror, help me out, pal. I need to get into one of Bluebeard's treasure rooms, just one, I'm not greedy." The mirror answered Jack, "Forget it, Jack. You didn't even bother to compose your request in a rhyme." And Jack to this said, "Haven't you heard of free verse? Join the 20th century, glasshole." Question 7. What is Boy Blue's favorite song? We see, back in the day in the business office, Bigby asked Boy Blue what his favorite song was. Boy Blue said, "Oh, a number of songs are very dear to his heart." Bigby asked, "Are any of them good to dance to?" And Boy Blue, hearing this, asked, "Sure, but what kind of dancing? Fast and energetic, or slow, sultry, and romantic?" Bigby replied, "Second one. Just pick your favorite song, Blue, and do that. And make sure you start it the moment I step out onto the dance floor." Boy Blue was shocked. Bigby is going to dance? And does he actually have a date for the Remembrance Day Ball? This was back in Volume 1 when Bigby and Snow White first danced. Question 8, building off of Question 7, was, what was the song playing when Snow and Bigby first danced together at the Remembrance Day Ball? When Bigby and Snow White went onto the dance floor, Boy Blue was surprised to see that Snow White was the one that Bigby was planning on dancing with. And Boy Blue played the song Blue Skies. Snow White told Bigby, "I love this song. Did you order it up just for me?" And Bigby replied, "Could be. Do I earn extra points if I did?" Question 9. What is Frau Totenkinder knitting? Beauty one day asked Totenkinder that question. What was she knitting? And Totenkinder answered, "It is a garment for Beauty and Beast's first child." Beauty responded saying, "My first child, but I'm not expecting, I'm not even pregnant." And Totenkinder replied, "All things in time. Would you like to see my progress? I think it will fit your darling baby just fine, snug as a bug." The outfit for the baby that Totenkinder knitted is for a baby with a long tail and 4 arms. This is a little unsettling for Beauty and Beast. Question 10. Who was Prince Charming's first love? When Prince Charming was a little boy, his first love was a talking snail that claimed to be a princess. The princess told Charming that she needed to be kissed in order to be changed into human. Prince Charming, he was going to kiss the snail, but the snail then said that she doesn't have loose morals. She wants to be legally married first before they kiss. Prince Charming, the little boy, he was down. He asked his parents, "Mommy, Daddy, I want to marry this magic snail girl, can I? She's a princess." Well, when Prince Charming left, his parents questioned the snail if she was in fact under some sort of curse that made her a snail. The snail said she was, but the parents they decided to deny the snail's proposition to marry their son, assuming it to be one of the many annoying creatures infesting their lands of late that were turned from human into animals, and they ordered the snail to be cooked for their dinner that night. Prince Charming, being a young child, most likely brushed off the event or was told some manner of lie by his parents. Question 11. How many romantic conquests has Prince Charming had? One day in the business office, Prince Charming was working with Beauty, and Charming was trying to remember all of the women he was with over the years, and he was trying to count them all up and tally them for his memoirs. As he said, all great leaders have memoirs. So Prince Charming, he is trying to remember, and Beauty is taking notes. Prince Charming says, "Alright, so where was I? The next day there was that lovely young girl on the dairy farm where we stopped to rest our horses. Bethany, I think, or was it Tilda? No, Tilda was her sister, and I had her too. Oh, and then there was their mother. She kept her looks rather well, considering the usual burdens of a medieval agrarian life." Beauty, she commented, "Wait, you had all three of them? That's disgusting." Charming responds, "Not all at once, dear. I'm not entirely depraved. Now then, what was the total so far?" Beauty, counting them up, says, let's see, 1,412? Prince Charming says, "Oh, okay." And he continues, he says, "Oh yes, okay, so we rode the rest of the way home, arriving just in time for my 15th birthday gala, where I met this lovely young thing named..." And as he trails on, we don't know the full answer to how many romantic conquests he had, but supposedly he was already at 1,400 by his 15th birthday, so you know it was a lot. Question 12, the final question. Who caught the bouquet at Snow White's wedding? Apparently it was Clara the Raven, whom was previously a dragon. Clara swooped down and caught the bouquet. Clara is dating Volko Crow, one of the Crow brothers. Volko and his brother Joel watched Clara catch the bouquet. Joel commented to his brother, "Correct me if I'm wrong, brother Volko, but wasn't that Clara who just made off with the bouquet? Aren't you dating her?" Volko explained, "I'm only dating her when I'm a crow. While human, I'm seeing fair Katrinje up in 4C. Volko, teasing, said to his brother, "Not anymore, Volko. You have to dump poor Katrine because you're about to be married. You're about to be married." And with this, we end Volume 9. Alright, so that was Fables Volume 9. Here are my thoughts on the various storylines within this volume. So the 4-issue Sons of Empire storyline I thought was really compelling. I had a lot of fun seeing Geppetto's War Council and who was on it. The Snow Queen. I thought it was really cool how Rodney Greenwood, the wooden soldier turned human, came back into the story and was on that War Council as well. The Gnome Kings looked so mischievous. Hansel as a bad guy was cool. So yeah, I thought that was really great stuff. And I liked seeing some of their hypothetical reasonings of how things would go down. And when the Snow Queen presented her potential scenario of how they would take over the Mundy world, I totally bought into it. I was like, yes, the Snow Queen is right. Geppetto's totally going to destroy the Mundys in Fabletown easily. But then when Pinocchio laid out his counter case and how the Mundy world and Fabletown would probably end up destroying them in the end, I was like, yeah, Pinocchio's actually totally right. They would destroy them. So I thought that whole storyline was really compelling and interesting, and we are heightening the tensions leading to war in the next coming issues. So great stuff. Now, the 4 backup stories that were about 2 or 3 pages each, I'm pretty much whatever on those. That's not enough time to really tell a great story. While there were some funny jokes in there and a couple compelling things, I'm not really high on those. The Jiminy Christmas story arc I thought was really fun. I like having Santa in the storyline. Seeing Jack Horner trying to steal the naughty and nice list was great. Seeing the Wolf Cubs debate and talk about Santa and wanting to stay up late to ask him a question. And then Ambrose, who's clearly the cutest of all the kids, gets the task of staying up to talk to Santa. And we had his question and Santa's explanation of how he does it. I thought that was great. And then we have Santa talking to Flycatcher and setting up some important stuff that's going to happen next volume. So I thought, all in all, Jiminy Christmas was a great time. Then we had the father and son story arc, and I did not really like this one that much. The artwork wasn't that great, in my opinion, and I didn't much care for the whole thing with the siblings living below the monsters and they're attacking the kids. I did think some of Bigby and the conversation with his dad and some of that conversation was interesting, and seeing what life is like for the North Wind in his castle was kind of interesting, but all in all, I was not a huge fan of that 2-issue story arc. And then we had the burning questions issue, which, while some of the questions and their explanations did make me laugh, it was really a filler issue and not the best. So all in all, I think these various storylines are in various levels of quality. So Sons of Empire, I'd give an 8.5. Jiminy Christmas, I'd give an 8. Father and Son, I'd give a 7.5. And Burning Questions, that's like a 6.5 or 7. Average it all together, I guess I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be back next week with Fables Volume 10. And that's going to be a pretty big one. We're going to have Flycatcher making some real moves. So I will be back next week with that.